Wuthering Waves is more than just gacha. It's peak. Contradicting that first claim, this is a game that, on release, was somewhat disappointing for me, for a myriad of reasons. Poor story writing due to hasty rewrites, inconsistent voice acting, lack of quality of life, translation issues, lack of optimizations and devices overheating, gacha, way too much drama, I'm looking at you Genshin, horrible marketing, a lack of musical consistency, and too much technical jargon. But most importantly to me, a vague direction. I had no idea where this game would have been heading when version 1.0 released, and having played an extensive amount of the two gacha giants of the time, Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, I was worried. However, this concept of an open-world sci-fi fantasy post-apocalyptic adventure, fending off ancient deities called Threnodians, warring with the wave-worn phenomena and tacit discords, it seemed really fascinating to me. And after finishing the 1.0 content, I was itching for more despite all these issues. A quick disclaimer to get this out of the way. This video is a culmination of mine and my friends' opinions, and you are more than entitled to disagree with me. That is what reviews like these are for. I'm open to hearing more people's opinions and views on this product since I love it so much and want to find areas where the game can still improve and be a better overall experience. We all have our subjective tastes, and we are all entitled to that. Small story spoiler warning for those who have not completed all of the current content, but don't worry too much, I'm not going to talk too much about the story itself, just key aspects. This video is chaptered, so feel free to skip around when you feel like it. Now, let's begin dissecting this flawed masterpiece still in the making. I want to first begin this review by explaining a bit about myself and my history with gacha games as a whole. Like many others, I started playing gacha games during the 2020 lockdown with Genshin Impact. For a long time, I was ride or die for this game, but the more I played, the more I began to feel like it was a chore. As such, midway through the Inazuma Archon story, I left. I did later return to play through Sumeru, but was put off very quickly after the Aranyaka questline. If you know, then you know. I also religiously played Honkai Star Rail throughout the whole 1.0 patch cycle, but before 2.0 and Penacony rolled around, I again lost interest. And I again came back later, finished the 2.0 story, and left. The rampant issues that I had with these games, power creep, poor representation, exploration, story pacing, etc., never went away, even after taking long breaks, and have since decided that until these issues are resolved, I will not return to them in any meaningful capacity. These games just felt like a catch-22. No matter what I did or how I played, I could never fully enjoy them, especially not without spending money. I also dabbled in other gachas like Reverse 1999 and Tower of Fantasy, but neither quite grabbed my interest enough for me to stick around. Sorry 1999 fans, I know the game is good, it just didn't stick out to me personally. Now you might be thinking, why are you comparing these other gacha games, or comparison is a thief of joy? And while that is true, I am a joyless schmuck, and I love fueling drama, just as much as I love fueling my Monster Energy addiction. In comes Wuthering Waves. While a lot of the issues that I had with these previous games were indeed present in WuWa, many of them have been resolved well before the current day. Wave plates, exploration, echo loadout, small but important quality of life features, and meaningful rewards for my efforts. There have been patches of this game where I have simply completed all of the new content and then not logged in until the next update. But such is the nature of a live service game. I haven't once been put off by the doom posting and EOS soon comments that are rampant on the twitter.com and Reddit because, to put it simply, devs listened. I'll dive into that more in a later chapter. Playing Kuro's WuWa also encouraged me to try their other game, Punishing Grey Raven. I've not put in enough time into the game to comprehensively review it, but I gotta say, the music is phenomenal. Some tracks I've used for boss fights in a D&D campaign I'm a part of. It is really fun, and a testament to how important it is for a live service game like this to have a team of developers that consistently listen and improve their product. I believe one of WuWa's strong suits, once you get past the initial jargon dump confusion, is its world. The pull that I fell into this world, spending countless hours researching the lore of Solaris 3, thanks to the wonderful Solaris Archives community and their Notion page, has been phenomenal. The theory crafting and crackpot theories me and a friend have done reading through the speculations page has been a blast, but it is so esoteric and quite frankly beyond my understanding. Like, what is the 28 mansions and how do people even start drawing connections between them in this game? It amazes me. Looking past the lore and more at the physical geography of Solaris 3, I think I'm in the minority here in saying that the current playable region of Huanglong is actually quite beautiful and well designed. As far as I'm aware, a lot of people were quite disappointed with the lack of contrast between subregions, but I personally quite like this. It emphasizes the post-apocalyptic sci-fi theme that I've been craving. A funny side note, I still haven't fully 100%ed all of Jinzhou, despite my love for the game. I hate you Deseret Highlands and Northall Barrens. The way that you traverse the map, running up walls, using the Inferno Rider Echo skill are all a treat, and much needed in a game of this size. My jaded perspective on exploration in many recent open world games has given me a bigger appreciation for these small things. This also helps to feed the narrative that Wuthering Waves and Kuro Games respects my time. As Solon Lee of Kuro Games said at a TapTap conference where they were outlining issues and how to fix the game after launch, if players only have 3 minutes a day to play Wuthering Waves, then those 3 minutes should be a high quality experience. Devs listened. My respect for this game continued with the newest playable region, Renacita. It has definitely been a huge step up, and much like the translation suggests, a rebirth. Version 2.0 in its region was a staggering improvement in both exploration with the new flying mechanic and theming. The Italian inspirations were brought to life so well, and even though it was a far cry from the sci-fi apocalypse setting I had grown to love, I became instantly enthralled. I have 100%ed every region of Renacita thanks to how easy it is to navigate directly to chests or puzzles like the Vitrium Dancers and Echo Challenges. The lost time to just flying around and viewing everything, it's been well worth it. While exploration is great in WuWa, I think a key aspect some people overlook that helps compound your exploration experience is the music. I'm going to open this chapter by saying that I myself am a musician. I'm the vocalist of a hardcore band and producer of various electronic genres. So while I do know my way around music, I'm nowhere near as experienced as someone such as Marco Meatball. Big props to him and his content. Definitely recommend if you're interested in exploring video game music as a whole. Honestly, I do not know where to start with talking about the music in this game. The 1.0 area has some good music in isolation, but that's the main problem with it. Isolation. It feels disjointed. There is no single theme that it follows. This doesn't, however, stop the game from having some absolute heaters. With 1.1's Mount Firmament, this improved drastically. It felt more and more like a complete package as time went on, and exploring the new area with this really beautiful soundtrack really helped to enthrall me even more into the world. The Black Shores and version 1.3 compounded this tenfold. The near inspiration for the soundtrack blew me away when I first heard it. I mean, just listen to this. Pair this with the main motif of the area, and Kuro had finally cracked the code. They understood the power of a single motif and ran with it. I even shed a tear a couple of times when I sat down and fully listened to the soundtrack for the first time. Their sound team deserves a huge raise, because they cooked with this one. It has been phenomenal to experience this. My time in the Black Shores was great, but Rinasita in 2.0 was an even bigger step up. I do not know what happened, but it's like a switch flipped after the initial release that made Kuro rethink the entire workflow of the game. All of the music has been immaculately handcrafted to provide a rich and, at times, emotional experience, leading me very nicely into Chapter 4. I mentioned before that I will not be hyper-focusing in on the story and doing a full retelling, and I'm going to stick to that. What I will do, however, is highlight some key moments that really stood out to me in a sort of rapid-fire way. Again, spoiler warning, and feel free to skip to the next chapter of the video, because I highly recommend playing through all of this yourself, despite the flaws that it does have. After the somewhat disastrous first few acts of 1.0, I got to experience the Battle of Norfall Barrens against the Threnodian of Jinzhou, with Jian and Abby at my side. The second awakening of Jinshi in 1.1, and the reveal that the Rover is the Lord Arbiter. The Tethys system and the role of the Shorekeeper in 1.3. Camelia's near overclocking experience in 1.4. And in 2.0, the Carnival and fight against the Tainted Hecate by Frolova. Out of all of these parts, one stood out the most to me, and that is Cantarella's sacrifice and Kartathea's choice. The fact that behind her femme fatale appearance, Cantarella sacrificed her power given by the Divine in order to give the false Blessed Maiden the chance to end Leviathan's control. Why did I not break that sentence up? That was a mouthful. But that was all so captivating to me. With how much Kuro has, in my opinion, improved their storytelling and presentation abilities despite being chained by the bounds of a live service game, has been amazing to watch happen. And to think that a mere gacha game could become something so riveting to me, I'm just so excited to see where the story develops from here, because I believe there has been a lot of build up to something far greater than what is currently known. I've rambled enough about the story and the music, so I think it's time to discuss one of my favourite aspects of WuWa. The combat in this game resembles less like other open world games in the same vein, and more like a fusion between Nier Automata and, yes, I'm going to say it, Dark Souls. Arguably, WuWa's dodging and parrying feels a lot more satisfying than the Souls series, but that's most likely due to the fact that it's more action focused. This type of combat allows for a low skill floor, allowing most people to clear all content efficiently, but an incredibly high skill ceiling. The mastery of WuWa's combat oftentimes comes in the form of learning very specific character rotations between your 3 playable units, and quick swapping, which I only recently figured out how to do despite my many hours of experience. I actually only just a few days ago, as of writing this, finally got a full 30-star clear of the Tower of Adversity. Speaking of TOA, I should mention that both this and the Wuthering Waves game modes are both considered the endgame portion of WuWa, and while they do have problems, Wuthering Waves especially, they're clearly listening to player feedback from players and adjusting accordingly. Another demanding piece of content are the tactical holograms, which are what I believe to be the hardest piece of content considering I'm yet to 6-star all of them. I do appreciate how they make the bosses in this mode much harder for those looking for a challenge, and at the end of the day, I prefer games where dying is a skill issue. It's why I like WuWa's combat system. Yes, you spend money, you're going to make number go up, and it will make things easier, but there is still almost always a way to clear something with your current team. I think failure should be a lesson and not a punishment, because you didn't spend $50 more billion to get the most up-to-date units and their global passives. Anyway, I think another important piece of info to recognize is that Kuro has clearly put thought into mitigating power creep, considering the first premium character to ever release, Jian, still considered by some people the most important DPS unit to your teams. And don't even get me started on Jinn mains, you guys scare me. Same as Kalchara mains, I've seen what you guys get up to. Another mitigation that Kuro Games uses is by having characters focus in on one of the specific damage types that they deal, and there are a fair few to choose from. Camellia, for example, uses mainly basic attack, whereas Jinn uses mainly heavy attack. This means that there is more room for unique characters to be made for longer. I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of 20-ish characters for a single element, don't quote me on that, before needing to double up on their roles, which is usually the root cause for power creep in these kinds of gacha games. The general satisfaction that you feel when you start learning a boss's attack patterns, telegraphs, and parry openings is very nice. I think most people watching this video would agree. WuWa feels satisfying. From personal experience, it is one of the most fluid feeling combat systems of any game I've played. Second, obviously, to the absolute cinema that is Two Worlds. I know at least someone watching has played that before, and I salute you for it. A big contributing factor to the satisfying combat is the animations each character has. They all have their own unique moveset, even 4 stars, and they are all beautifully animated. I think a good video I can recommend is by Professor Goo, who reviewed each of the characters' animation sets. This was up until about, I think, Chun-Li's release. He knows way more about animation than me, so go and take his word for it if you don't believe me. But I do genuinely believe that the animators have done a really good job emphasizing and creating impact. Hell, even the animations outside of combat and the facial expressions the characters show in dialogue are phenomenal. Getting a bit ahead of myself here, so I'll save the character personality and design for another chapter. Next up though, is events. I would categorize WuWa's events into 2 different main categories, combat and non-combat. The non-combat events range from parkour minigames to silly lottery ones like the Lolo campaign, which I personally am a fan of. These are basically free resources and I do not see a reason to complain about that. There is also the 1.2 main festival event that I personally also liked. It's a good reprieve from the combat and really nice to see the development of characters' personalities, especially like Zhangli Yao and Yin Lin. Please bring this back, Kuro, I am begging on my hands and knees. The combat events are much more interesting, however. The co-op boss rush event is some of the most fun I've had since it's basically just you and 2 other players actually aura farming. I'm also a huge advocate for the roguelike events that Kuro Games is known for from PGR, which are what I think is the gold standard for roguelike events in gacha. In WuWa, this manifests in the form of the Depths of Elusive Realm or Somnium Labyrinth modes. These do both need work, and I'm eager to see how deep into a roguelike experience these can go into the future. There isn't really much else to say about events in this game. They do obviously have some issues, and the fun factor for some events is not great, but judging by the trajectory of how new events have been developed, a lot of issues are already being resolved, and I have faith that Kuro can begin to consistently output new and fun events. Wuthering Waves suffered from quite a drab design in the CBT. This was fixed up and made much more colourful for the 1.0 release, however it came at a cost. The story also became much less dark and gritty. Personally, I am tired of gacha games that are all happy and dandy and power of friendship. I do understand why Kuro did this, they wanted to broaden their market audience, and I get that, but I do wish, in quite a morbid way, there was more death and more struggle. Moments that should be hard-hitting do not have enough impact. There's a very subjective thing, and at this point hasn't quite made me turn away from the game though. I do believe, with the new age rating increase to 16+, that when we get to New Federation, we experience something much darker and grittier. Also, Kuro, please give us cars in New Fed, and my life is yours. Character design, however, is a huge plus in my books. I really like almost all of the designs in this game, and all I wish is that other characters that we have not seen in the story get their time to shine. Calcharo especially, because you cannot look this badass and then just never show up in the story. A place where I hope they take more inspiration from PGR is with the skins. I do really both like Jinchi and Sanhwa's skins, especially with how much Jinchi actually changes the design of not only her outfit, but also her visual effects. I'm eager to see which characters will receive skins in the future, and how much they will change. I keep mentioning PGR, and that's because I think it has a lot of very good aspects that the team working on WuWa should definitely take advantage of. I think bringing a lot of the user experience and gameplay design options from PGR into WuWa will help the game shine even more. The animations of each character, as I've mentioned before, are a very nice step up from what I've experienced in previous gacha games. There's clear nuance in the character's facial expressions and movements that really help convey the story and emotion that a character is feeling. The game feels alive. Like I'd shown before, a prime example of this is during the gondola ride with Carthea in 2.2. The way the character stutters in her movements and strokes her hair really emphasizes that this is a person who, drawing parallels to Joan d'Arc, has not experienced these kinds of things before. She doesn't know how to act. And I really like how this is portrayed. Abby is another character who I think has really nice animations during dialogue. She's very well personified by her, what I like to call, little shit energy. It further hammers home the point that WuWa feels alive. Side note about Abby, during Cantarella's companion quest, I really like how you're having a conversation with Cantarella, and then Abby shows up and immediately is like, oh, am I interrupting something? I'll go away. I like that. I like how she isn't forced into the story at every single point and aspect. Abby shows up when she needs to tell you something, and if she isn't needed, then she'll go away. Other games should really learn from this. Sidekick characters should be sidekicks. They should not be repeating back the story to you at every chance and opportunity. It makes me feel dumb when this happens, and I really don't like that. The characterization that each character gets can, in some cases, be hampered by their automatic like towards Rover. We're all aware of the whole Gathering Wives joke, and I completely understand why some people may be turned off by this. It seems like everybody we meet automatically has a positive disposition for Rover. For some characters this makes total sense, like Changli and Shorekeeper, but for others, feels jarring. I'm not 100% on this, but if I recall, during the CBT, Chisha was apparently mean towards Rover, and I think that it's a missed opportunity to show things like this, and then also show development after. I think giving people a reason to care more and build rapport with the Rover will be great for the writing of the game, and in the event that one of these characters dies, will give much more impact. This next portion is very subjective, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me. This is just my own opinion. While I love my wife Shorekeeper, I think they could have handled her introduction slightly better. The initial reunion at the beginning of 1.3 felt jarring. This isn't necessarily a negative though, since I believe throughout the rest of 1.3's quest, a good rapport was built with her. But I do think that showing more about characters like these to the player, not the Rover, could have been beneficial. A good step forward for Kuro, in my eyes, would be to possibly introduce more story elements directed towards the player through animatics, not necessarily to the Rover through flashbacks. Let us, the players, decide whether to feel emotionally connected to these characters, separate from how the Rover would feel. Blank slate characters can be good, but I do think that the Rover would be a much better candidate to be their own individual with their own goals and ideals, which has thankfully been shown in the 2.0 story onwards. I just hope they continue down this path and perhaps provide more to the player and less to the character themselves. This is called dramatic irony, and is a tool which writers use to provide information to the audience and not the character. I think Kuro could use this extensively, since it would give more context onto why we should care about the characters within this narrative. Overall, I am quite satisfied with how this game has been designed so far, but there are always areas to improve. For the most part, I have done a lot of glazing for this game, but now I think it's worth diving into the negative aspects, starting with the community. Now, I need to get this out of the way immediately, not everyone in the community is bad. Many people keep to themselves and just enjoy the game, but there are obviously bad actors and people who just like to stir up drama. There's been a lot of discourse. Genshin killer, my game makes more money than your game, Genshin could never, lack of male characters, this one is still true to this day, negative edging, comparing waves, etc, etc. I could go on for days and hours about all of the minute drama that has occurred. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act holier than thou because I do love a good bit of drama and complaining, but holy moly is some of this just absolutely unnecessary. More recently, there have been people complaining about censorship since they changed Cantarella's model to no longer have a specific asset. Not gonna show this, I don't know how YouTube will handle that. And because they made Fleur-de-Lis's model have longer shorts. Come on, are we serious, guys? This really makes little to no difference to anything in the game, and no, it does not set a precedent for Kuro to update paid products after release. It really is not that deep, and we should focus our collective energy on the more pressing matters, like the issues with endgame and predatory gacha mechanics, like the 50-50 system. Speaking of gacha, this is a big negative for me personally. Kuro has done well in providing a solid free-to-play experience, and I will not discredit that. The Novice banner, 5-star selector, abundance of astrite from events and exploration, and a guarantee on the premium weapon banner are amazing. However, the 50-50 on the character banner is still a massive big X in my books. I would say a good way to eliminate this is by having the first run of a character have a guaranteed drop chance at 80 pulls, similar to PGR, even if on a previous banner you had a 50-50. This would help free-to-play players for getting the units that they want, but still allow Kuro to make money from whales because, let's face it, whales will always be whales. Another thing I would love to see improvement in is the quality of life. Now as it stands, the baseline for QOL is great, but there are a few key parts I would love to see improved. Sorting mechanics for the backpack, claim all button for trophies and other reward screens, special events. Some easier navigation between menus could be good. I do not like having to back out of every screen to go to another. And echo tuning while leveling them up. That would also be very nice to have. My whole point with making this video and talking about the negatives is to show that the game isn't entirely perfect. So much as I glaze the game and sing its praises, some things still need to change. Now, I doubt Kuro will specifically watch this video, but I do want to bring awareness to the community about things that should be given credit for and things that should be improved upon. With that, I think it's time to finally conclude this video and give my closing thoughts about it and how the future looks. This game is truly something special to me. With all of its faults, there have been times that I have genuinely shed tears at the story, which only one other game has successfully made me do, which is the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I see a lot of good writing in that game mirrored in Wuthering Waves, whether it be the heart-wrenching moments or pure cinema cutscenes. Gameplay loop overall is taking some of the best aspects from games I love and twisting them so that they are still unique in an interesting way. I think Wuthering Waves has a very bright future ahead of it, and I'm hopeful for where this game will go. The trajectory WuWa has set for itself is great from what I can tell, and I hope that it improves with each future patch. I'd also like to say a thank you to you, the viewer, if you even made it this far into the video. I appreciate taking time out of your day to watch something that is this long, and the script of this video is nearing 5,000 words, which is quite frankly a lot for me, and I'm very grateful if you stuck around for this. I tried to keep this as concise as possible, and I do hope that my ramblings made some sense at least. As for the future of my channel, considering this is the first video, I'm hoping to release more content on Wuthering Waves, and perhaps other games, but we'll see how I'm feeling on that front. I'm also hoping to try streaming in the future, and see how that turns out. But I think that's enough yapping out of me. I hope you have the great rest of your day and night, and thank you for watching.
Surrender to the waves, we'll take it away. Look into my eyes while it fades. Here you're safe with me. I sing this simple prayer, and I hope your heart will hear.